Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel, and I'm super excited for today's video because Anthropic just dropped a brand new model called Claude 3.5 Sonnet New. So it's the same name of the model, but they have rebranded it with just adding a new version. You can see it in the image here, right? So very simply the name is just new, right? And that's what they've put. They've compared it to all the other models, so GPT-4o, GPT-4o mini and everything, and technically they claim that it's one of the best models compared to all of them on their own evaluations. But we are not going to take their word for it. We are going to put them to test. They have mentioned that they have not compared it to the O1 model family, but well, I'm going to compare it to the O1 model family and how it performs against them. So I already have the prompts ready and this is going to be super exciting. So let's get started. Awesome. So the first response that I'm going to give it and ask it to bring it out is very simply about creating a game of tic-tac-toe using just code. And this is just going to be like, literally I've asked it to just use blue and purple colors because they are a horrible combination and I want to see how it adapts to that. And also use only HTML, CSS and JavaScript in a single file. Right, so that's the prompt. Again, it's very simple. I want to see how it works on one shot because that's what they've compared it to, and I want to see how it performs. So as soon as they complete, obviously, I think GPT-4o is also all of them are writing, right? So again, let me just copy and paste this. So the best thing with Claude is that the artifacts are super crazy, right? You can actually see the game is already ready and the code is also here, so I don't need to visualize that for you, but I'm just going to visualize the rest and you can see them how they work together better, right? So let me just do that and let me see this, and we have this one, and let me just put this and save this also, right? So I think GPT-4o is still going on and I copied it before, so let me just paste that and I will be able to show you how this looks. Okay, so awesome. We have all the three codes already rendered out, right? I think I have a winner, but let me just see if it actually works or not, right? Because again, if it does not work, then obviously we have a clear problem, right? So I'm just going to randomly just play and see if it even works. Awesome. Player X wins. That's great, right? Let's see here what happens, right? I'm playing a horrible game here, right? Okay, so draw, and let's see what happens here. Okay, game ended in a draw, right? I do believe just off the top of the bat, this looks tacky. This does not feel right to me. They tried to put something glowy on the thing, and it's but I technically prefer honestly O1 previews game visually just much better, right? Because it's not a difficult thing. It's just tic-tac-toe. It's not going to be super difficult. So it's pretty simple to create this game, but I just like visually O1 preview much better compared to everything else, because the if you just look at this, the way the buttons are, the font that it shows are probably I've not even seen the code, but it just looks better, right? So that's what I believe. So one preview obviously takes off the bat, but again, if I had to compare even between Claude and just GPT-4o, I would still give complete marks to just GPT-4o because this UI is just 110% much better than Claude, right? So if you see the colors and everything are just 10 times better on the right than compared to the left, right? So again, personal preferences could be there, but I think this is pretty clear one that complete win to GPT on this. Okay, awesome. So let's get started with another new chart. So we are off to the races. Again, a code-based task, right? Again, this is much more simpler, right? I just asked it to create a design for a search page of a brand new search engine focused towards Gen Z, right? So specifically focused towards Gen Z, and you have to create a search engine layout. Let's see what you do. The requirement is that it does not need to be functional. I just wanted to have HTML and CSS. I literally just want to see how good it is from a designing perspective, even from just to understand what it is doing, right? I still believe O1 might win this just because design requires a much more bigger thought process than it. But Claude is not looking bad. Claude looks pretty good. I just saw that and you can see the smile on the face. It looks pretty cool, right? It looks pretty cool, really, really good, right? So let me see what comes with GPT-4o. I'm not going to give the final result, but it's coming in strong. It's coming in strong. It's not bad. It's not bad. Let's see. Is this done? Yep, done. Okay, let me just copy this and save. And then refresh this and refresh this. Okay, oh my god. 110% full marks to Claude. It's just 10 times better, right? It's just 10 times better than both of them, right? And I just want to be sure I pasted the right code for every, even if it is wrong, I think yeah, I did the right thing, right? This is just 10 times better than anything. This looks horrible, and just thinking vibe search and putting, because I specifically said in the prompt, don't use any images, right? Because I want to see like how does the code response look like, because again, images make things very different. But this is super cool. This is super cool. Like, and I just want to like, I would love like this is a search engine, but even trending, like this is just so much better than whatever they have done on the end. So it's a tough battle. It's one each for both of them. Okay, so amazing, and I am just smiling. So I just need to like probably take a pause and come to the next task that we're going to give it to. Okay, awesome. So the next task is pretty simple. I'm just asking you to explain the history of the world between 1500 to 2024 today. I don't know the history of the world myself a lot, but like just based on like, I want to see how they present it, right? I have told it, explain it to a 5-year-old, keep it short and explain only the most relevant parts, right? So they should technically just take the most popular parts out of this, right? And put this, right? So let's see how it like, just like comes down to, right? Okay, so I just took a second to like, just go through all of them. I'll be honest, okay? So the kind of response I was expecting something like this, right? I was expecting like it explains every, like, every era, like every, like, every century properly, like, just explain it, like what happened to like give it a example, right? And it actually did like in a decent format on GPT-4o. Like I would say from a response perspective, I kind of like GPT-4o much better based on what I actually wanted as a response, right? But I have to give like some points to Claude here that it did not do like actually not like any points, because it did not do a lot of great job. Like it was like very simple, like long ago around 1500 people started doing this XYZ, and then just like putting like 6 things down the line, right? And maybe like a line, and then again the point is like it was for a 5-year-old, right? So I believe that yes, you want to like focus on making it simple and short, but just from a response perspective, it works better. On the left hand side, on over and preview also, I think I would like to see the like the chain of thought it did, right? So breaking down history and then highlighting key events and everything. It tried to do it in like an extremely short story format, right? Like just like there were times which something did not happen, the wars happened and everything, and you could see the difference. I would say these are very 3 drastic responses, right? But just based on my preference that I was looking for something like GPT-4, I would just give GPT this marks. Even if I had to choose between like all 3, I would not choose the Claude one, right? It just does not make sense. There's not even a story. Like why do you have bullets if you are continuing in the story? Then just continue with the story, right? Don't continue with like adding bullets to that and then just making it, I don't know, like makes thing which you can't use at all, right? Either give like a story so we can compare, like you can tell a story to a kid, or you give it something like this what you can like see out the process. But yeah, okay, works with different options, but completely GPT wins that. So it's GPT-2, Claude 1. Let's go to the next step. Okay, so this is a bit interesting. The prompt is like, I just want to read this, like, to be clear. Have a debate between Democrats and Republican candidates. Again, they are American political parties. Hypothetically, on the topic of abortion rights, because that has been like a pretty talked about topic there, and like, the changes that has happened in the American system. I'm not trying to be political. I just want to see what does the response look like, right? And also like, is there some bias that we can see from a perspective? Because again, it's also like, Claude is saying that it's better at reasoning, so I want to see how it looks like. Okay, honestly, I would just like say like this is horrible, right? Okay, I told it it's hypothetical. I'm not going to like, I can't code this content, but it has just written like, I can't provide anything like hypothetical debates or declare highly sensitive topics or something, right? Just try hypothetically explore. Right? Okay, you know what? This is stupid. Like, just putting guardrails on, even like if someone wants to actually test this, I get it. Like, right? So let's see, like, what? Again, I'm not going to run through like this whole conversation and everything. Like, I just want to like again impact on women's health, but just like at least it is a debate, right? It's like a debate of a hypothetical conversation. Obviously, both of them are trained on similar rules, so obviously, I will not expect like any of them to like go crazy. It's obviously a very sensitive topic, but one thing that you can see is like from I don't know who the winner candidate Smith. So is candidate Smith from protecting abortion is about safeguarding personal freedom. So candidate Smith is the person who's protecting abortion rights. So Democrats, right? I think like here also it's the, however, for those priority states, right? So again, it's like it's obviously like very high. It's a very nuanced conversation. So on the right on GPT-4, it has just said like yeah, anyone can be the winner and XYZ, and like I would love to read that, but just like because I am not educated enough on the topic, I'm just going to keep that. I do believe like I'm not going to keep a political stance on this, right? So that's it. But okay, let's come to the next part and like get out of this whole political stuff. Okay, so let me just run this off and I'll explain you the prompt. It's pretty simple. I always keep getting questions about how should I break into AI or tech or finance and everything from college kids, right? So I put like, that exactly like, what does a career path look like for a kid? And I want perspective from an Indian kid and a kid in US, because the kind of like, the opportunities both of those kids will be very different based on the geographies and everything, right? So let's see how does this look, and it has updated my memory. I don't know how to do it. But let's see. Okay, so I've given it an option and I will take a couple of seconds to read it and just give you a summary on what it looks like. Okay, so the answers are extremely detailed on every end. Like even Claude did an extremely good job, like with the answers and how like it's coming through. Like I can attach them in the description if you guys would like. But very simply, like the content is pretty good, like on both these ends. I would just say like one thing that stood out to me on Claude from a reasoning perspective, which actually matters, and that's based on my perspective, is very simply, technology is generally more accessible to people who are not from tier 1 colleges. Like it's very difficult to break into like private equity or investment banking if you're not from a great school across the world, right? Again, that's across the world could be very shallow for me. It's probably like based on my US and India thought process. But the idea is that if you're not from a tier 1 school, like a great bank is not even going to look at you for the best roles that they have, right? That's just how the world works. And it did mention that, right? And I would suggest like honestly, that would be much better to mention that at the end, so that people actually have like a better understanding of what they want. Another thing that Claude did really well was actually put in the potential salaries, right? So 20 to 30 LPA in India, and then again it has also put the US salaries. I can't verify them, so again I'm just going to like say like it's probably like along those ranges, right? But actually really well done on Claude on this, like from thought process perspective, from actually giving someone a roadmap, and someone comes with doubts to Claude, 110% like wins on this argument completely well, right? So where do we stand then? Okay, let's come to the final conclusions. So here are the final conclusions, right? So I believe like Claude has done a decent job in reasoning process, right? I could see the answers are a bit well thought out compared to like GPT-4o in some aspects, right? But the moderation part of Anthropic just does not make sense to my brain, because I'm like, at least you need to allow people to explore the technology into certain aspects, to even like, because people might have different use cases, right? I'm not expecting you to like make drug deals accessible, but I'm expecting you to like allow people to hypothetically do debates and stuff, right? So that's a big negative. Like if I would have to prefer Claude 3.5, Sonnet, New, whatever the name of the model is, I would not prefer that, because again, I want to have like a subscription or a thing that works for me, right? Even if I'm using an API and I want to use some words to just make the prompt very strict, I can't, right? So again, does not work for that. So on an overall basis, GPT-4o works really well on the overall use cases, right? Obviously, O1 preview we are not counting in the comparison, but the responses are comparatively much better just because of the way it processes. On the design part, Claude did well, but again, I would say overall GPT wins the game, right? Because again, like it's pretty good, right? And I would just like use the Claude's free subscription to just like try out things when I need to from a design thing and XYZ. So that's what my feedback is. Again, you guys should let me know if I was right or wrong in the comment section. Please like, share, and subscribe the video. It really helps me out a lot, and I would love to see you guys in the next one.